Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to talk about ghost guns and how they're contributing to a rise in violent crime, especially gun crimes in this country. Because, more bad guys than ever are just getting ghost guns and going out and committing crimes. And that is contributing to the rising amount of gun crime and homicides in this country. Or at least that's what some people would like you to think, like the ATF, Biden, etc. But today I want to take a look at ghost guns and look at whether the facts are actually supporting that they're driving any rise in crime whatsoever, if they're actually an issue at all, or if they're just a big hullabaloo over nothing. I like to think of ghost guns as kind of the transsexuals using bathrooms of the gun community, because in reality, everybody gets all worked up about, oh my God, transsexuals are going to go in bathrooms and rape women and blah, 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 and all this other stuff, when really it's nothing anyone should be worried about, because why would you care where someone goes to the bathroom, for one, and two, trannies make up or transsexuals, sorry, although all the friends I have that are transsexual are okay with the term tranny. I guess we're not allowed to use that anymore. But if you look at how many there are, it's like what, 1 in 1,000 maybe? So you're worried about what 1 in 1,000 people might do. We're making it a big public issue over 1 in 1,000 people. And the reality is most of those of that tiny number of people are not criminals. So your chances of getting raped in the ladies' room by a transsexual are almost zero, yet we've made a big deal about it. People are worried about it. People are actually, just terrified by the idea, when really there's nothing to it. It's just such a statistically small number. Those people aren't criminals. Chances of it happening are pretty small. In fact, you also have to remember guys who just want to dress up as women and go into restrooms to mac on women are going to do it anyway because they're criminals. Criminals do bad things. You can't stop them with laws. They disobey the law. That's why they're criminals. And two, another thing, it's not happening now. Men aren't going in restrooms dressed as women and raping women. It just isn't a thing. Why would anyone put themselves in an enclosed public area where if something goes wrong, because it's liable to, because people are freely coming and going, because it's a public area, they're trapped with one way out, and usually in a place where there's lots of people and security or whatever, it just isn't an issue. And that's kind of the way I think of ghost guns. They're just not an issue. We went off on a little social rant there, but let's get back to ghost guns. I chased off enough subs now. But ghost guns, there's just no evidence that they're an issue. First off, let's look at how criminals get guns. Now, I know most people say, well, they steal them. That's really not the way most criminals get guns. There's different ways that guns end up involved in crimes. The number one way is they get legally purchased by someone who hasn't become a criminal yet. That's the number one way, especially when you look at like mass shootings, etc. Domestic violence. Things like that are the most common causes of crimes outside of gang crime. But when you look at actual criminals and how do they get theirs, the ones that get theirs and shouldn't be able to get one, theft isn't even number one on that list, and neither is ghost guns. Number one is straw purchases. They just have someone they know who's not prohibited go pay for the gun for them. It's super easy to do. It is not hard if you've got the money and you're a criminal to get a gun. All it really matters is that you got the green. And you can have someone else just go buy it for you. Happens all the time. It's probably, and according to the FBI, it's the most common way bad guys get guns. So ghost guns are not even up there near that top of the list either, along with theft. They're way down towards the bottom. So they're actually a statistical anomaly almost. There's so few of them used that saying that they're a cause of the rise in crime recently is ridiculous. It's just something they can demonize. Now, I did read one study where in Philadelphia, they said that, the number of ghost guns that they have recovered from crimes has risen sharply. But they forget to tell you that the number of guns they've recovered from crimes, period, has risen sharply because of what's been going on the last couple of years. You know, massive protests, lockdowns, violence, blah, 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 domestic violence, etc. And they forget to tell you that when they say ghost guns, they like to think that you're just saying that those are all homemade guns, because they like to use that term, homemade guns. But when you just say ghost guns, all of those aren't homemade guns. Any gun that found at the scene with no serial number, it's been destroyed, whatever, that's considered a ghost gun to them. So you would have to figure those out of the equation anyway. And even if you don't, even if you end up with some guns involved in a crime that are ghost guns, and you start seeing it at a higher percentage, let's say 2 years ago, ghost guns or homemade guns made up 3% of all recovered firearms. That would be, okay, they make up 3%. Now let's say they make up 9% of recovered firearms. You'd be like, oh my God, they've gone up 3 times the number of crimes they're being used in. They're causing crime because the number of crimes they're used in is 3 times higher. That way, that means there's more crime, 3 times more murders because of ghost guns. No, that doesn't mean that either. That just means that instead of buying a gun on the street, or buying a gun via straw purchase, or stealing a gun, somebody that would have usually, like I said, used a straw purchase to get a gun just went the quicker route and got an 80%er. They still would have got a gun either way, and now the ghost gun is just stealing a small percentage of the number of guns that are recovered were bought in straw purchases. Isn't creating any more crime, isn't being the cause of crime, isn't making someone more likely to have a crime, isn't making it more likely for a bad guy to have a gun. It's just stealing some percentage from another way that people would usually get a gun. Instead of doing a straw purchase, like I said, they just buy a ghost gun. Isn't affecting the crime rate, isn't affecting how many bad guys have guns, isn't affecting how many illegal guns are on the street. Because in my opinion, a gun only becomes illegal when someone does something illegal with it. So all these numbers are just garbage, basically. They're all relying on hearsay. In fact, the FBI and the ATF, when they presented the numbers to Congress about how big a threat they think that ghost guns are now, they use the number of ghost guns that are likely in circulation. The information they used to judge that was how many times people did YouTube searches or Google searches on ghost guns, 80%ers, 3D printed guns. And they used that as a basis for how big a problem it is. That's garbage. As one of the writers I was reading pointed out, there were 39 million searches for Bigfoot. That doesn't mean there's 39 million Bigfoot out there. And I totally agree. There's probably, just a few 100,000 at this point, I would say. So ghost guns, like I said, they just aren't a big problem. There's something to just demonize and go after and attack and to turn everybody against gun rights. There's no real threat from them. Should the government be regulating them? No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't have the right to regulate whether you build your own firearm. They shouldn't have that power at all. I totally believe that the only gun laws that should exist are don't commit crimes with guns, and you can't buy a gun if you're in prison. That's about the only two I agree with. And the one about don't commit crimes, there could be lots of different crimes you can't commit with a gun, like don't use it for robbery, don't use it for killing people, things like that. But no laws against the gun itself or barring people from owning it. Just what you do with it should be illegal if you do something wrong. But like I said, ghost guns really don't pose any threat. There's no evidence that they're posing an increased threat. There's no evidence that they're causing a rise in crime. It's all correlation. They're just pointing out now, they're acting like, ghost guns just came to be in the last year and that accounts for that 15% rise in crime rates. No, just they've been around for a while, and now you're just demonizing them to try to explain why you're not doing your job and why crime rates are going up, because the government is failing, law enforcement is failing, local governments are failing, definitely. And we've gone through one of the most horribly handled just bad information, overly strict rules, conflicting information. It was just bad. And all that culminated to some bad times right now. But ghost guns are not responsible for any of it. There's no evidence whatsoever. Like I said, bad guys are not relying on ghost guns. They usually rely on straw purchases, illegal purchases. There are some FFLs out there that will sell under the table to anyone. At any given moment during the year, there's probably nearly 1,000 of them that are under investigation for doing so. But that's less than 1% of them, or that's less than like 8% of them. So it's not like a mass number of gun dealers are under investigation for doing bad things. It's a small percentage. A lot of which are usually sponsored by the government. They go down to these gun dealers and say, hey, this guy's going to come in and commit a bad purchase. He's a gun runner. He's going to want to come in and buy 50 of these. Let him. And then they blame the shop. Oh, they sold 50 guns to a gun runner. You told them to. The ATF walked in and said, hey, sell these guns to this person because we want to track them. And then they use that in their crime statistics. So there is absolutely no real world information that ghost guns are dangerous, that they're being used in any nefarious way that would have, any nefarious acts that would have not been carried out if they didn't exist. It's all correlation. There's no causation here. So no one should be worried about ghost guns. People in law enforcement know they're not worried about them because they know if, hey, John B. is a hardened criminal and he wants a gun, he's going to get one. And probably not going to want to build it. He probably doesn't have the tools and stuff to put it together. He'd probably rather just have someone go in and buy it for him, like his girlfriend or his cousin. So they are not contributing to crime. That is a bunch of bullshit. If it ever changes and it becomes like, oh, all the criminals are using 80%ers, well, then maybe we ought to look at it. But as of right now, it's a non-issue. It's a political issue. And people need to back off of it because, like I said, it's not causing a problem. So for people on the left who want to pretend it is, either put up some real information or shut up because of right now, ghost guns are not an issue. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. I hope that ramble made sense. I kind of lost my place several times because I didn't have any planned statements. I should start writing these things down. But like I said, that's it for me today. I want to thank everyone for coming. I do appreciate you being here, and I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to remind everyone out there to always carry, even if it's a legally obtained ghost gun. And stay safe until I see you again.